What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Hey, what's good? Once again, it is the KSC podcast, Kinell Sinister Cinema, and as you have probably guessed by now, I am Kinell. A great episode for you today. This is what I was really happy to do. This is what I was really looking forward to talking to. It's none other than Tony Madness. I first knew Madness from Grind Time. I used to watch him battling people like Soul Khan, High Collide and all this. Back when the battle had to get released in 2 separate parts because YouTube videos were only 10 minutes long. And I've been a fan of him since those days. His music's always tidy. He'd always have a trailer for a new music video he had coming out at the start of those Grind Time battles, and he's done a couple of bangers on Don't Flop and all. Recently he was on, about a year ago, he had a bit of a comeback battle with Don Marino on iBattle, and I gotta say, man, his style just does not age, because as he puts it himself, he wants to, comes out with the attitude that you are someone that he wants to leave a house party. So he's just talking down to you, and that'll never go out of fashion because it's never being overly clever or whatever. I mean, what he does is clever, but he's not trying to be clever for the sake of clever. Just fuck you, you are a dickhead. And I love that style. That's my favourite style. That's why O'Shea is so great to this day. Flipping all the originals who sort of kept with that still are capable of hanging flipping 20 years on, 10 years on from however long they started battling. But we're going to be talking about movies today. We're sort of mainly focusing on the VHS era, the VHS rental era. And this is inspired by the tune he did with Frank Stack's 80s Babies. That's up on Don't Flop now. You might have seen, I used a clip of it in the trailer. And so, yeah, that's well worth checking out. And all these, managed to concentrate all the shit I'm into in a 4-minute track. And it's an amazing track, too. But yeah, anyway, this is the interview from Florida, Tony Madness. Safe. Yes, KSC podcast once again, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome onto the podcast someone I've been a fan of for well over a decade now, Tony Madness. How are you?
I'm good, brother. What's going on?
Thanks for doing this again. It's an absolute pleasure. I've been a big fan of you for a long time. You're I first got onto you with Grind Time. And you've always had that style that really appeals to me. The style that's just basically, you're a dickhead and I am better at rapping than you.
That's how I always treated it. That's exactly right.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to. And I've been following you mainly through battle rap and sort of as social media things come on, I became increasingly aware of the fact that you have exceptional taste in all forms of media.
I appreciate that. Yeah, man. I try to, I don't know, ever since I was a kid, I watched every movie. I listened to every album I could. I just basically just really been into movies and music more than normal my entire life. And of course, I took it into the rap realm, you know, with a bunch of references to random shit that only like 10 of us would get, you know, just sprinkle them throughout for the people that really, really get it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've always had those like references for the heads. Like, I mean, like the obvious things that spring to mind for me are like you and Theo Kane, who was known as Psychosis Holocaust at the time. I don't know if he goes by that name now for obvious reasons. It's a different time. You had that fourth birthday battle on Don't Flop with the references. Like that was like this was really early on before like scheming had properly like took hold and it became fucking unavoidable after that. But I hadn't really seen anything that was just pure references, and you were like two of the best people to be doing that. Like,
yeah, I thought we were like a good pick to do it. I knew Theo already, and I still do. You know, he's obviously been doing movies and things like that. But yeah, we kind of just said, hey, you know, I knew Don't Flop did themed battles, and they were kind of like the only one that really did them on a bigger scale. So I kind of wanted to do one, and I mean that's in my wheelhouse right there. So it's like, hey, let's go ahead and just rap about movies and a bunch of references, and you know. I just was like, I probably had like 20 already that I was like, all right, let me just get these in here real quick because I couldn't use them anywhere else.
This is it. I have the same thing myself. I'll be sitting on a bar for years because I thought it's never going to be the right time for it. Like,
Yep.
but
Exactly.
as you say, there's always those 10 people that get it, and that's the one. Like, you know, I might sneak something into a setup because I know it won't pop as a punchline. And like I do it for the one guy who flipping fist bumps me after the show, like goes, yeah, I caught it.
That's really it. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
It's mostly for me, really.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think Frankie Frazier I had on here recently, and he was saying like, I'm always just going to put in the cool shit that I like.
Yep.
And
yeah, because you go back and look at it, and you're like, yeah, I got that one off. I feel good about that. Yeah. I mean, the people that like you are already gonna like it. You might as well throw in some stuff for yourself that you basically it's good, but it might not have like a wider audience. But you just say fuck it, just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Can we curse?
What's that? Yeah. Do all the cursing.
I didn't know.
I demonetize myself constantly, and
it doesn't matter. I didn't know if it would hurt your monetization. All right.
Yeah, flipping. I'm not really worried about monetization. The YouTube really isn't doing well. It does really well on all the audio channels, but the YouTube ain't hitting them algorithms. So I might as well stay cursing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. What's got another thing that's I urge anyone to check out. I might just edit some of it into this. Is the tracks you did with Frank Stax on the Don't Flop channel. Particularly 80s baby.
Yeah.
Like that is like a flipping tour de force, like Ed 209, Tetsuo's Mind, all those things. That's an absolute tour de force of like what I try to do with this podcast in 4 minutes while sounding cool as fuck.
Nice. Yeah, we recorded an entire album in 2 days, and we did like maybe 19 songs. And I mean, this was some years ago, so I'm really like racking my brain for some memories here. But I know that one specifically. A lot of them, you know, I live across the entire country from him, so we live on opposite ends of the country, and we wrote pretty much every song except 2 separately, right? Because we don't live near each other anymore. I used to live by him, but that one we wrote in the same room together, so that made it really nice. And we recorded it at the same time, so we were in 2 separate booths. Doing our parts like that, which generally you can't do normally, but the studio setup allowed it, so we basically recorded the whole shit at once.
I think that really comes off in the track. Like there's a real dynamic between you, which is like, even if you're right, so it sounds like that, it's really hard to pull off the kind of like sort of back to back bouncing off each other energy like on a tune, like, and you really did on that one.
I appreciate it. Yeah, as a rapper, I think it's noticeable, you know, maybe not to the regular consumer or whatever, but as a rapper, it is real noticeable, the difference between doing it, you know, in punches and doing it at the same time.
Yeah, it's like how like Method Man and Redman used to record in the same booth and just like flipping, just pass a lump back
Same
and forth
thing.
to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's an incredible piece of work. And that's kind of like we haven't really got a structure for this, but in terms of the theme, I suppose 80s Babies is the one for the.
All right with that. I busted out the hat today too for you.
Oh yes, nice one.
That's why I got the shirt.
Yeah, flipping always pops. Like, I mean, like, well, like when I mentioned it to you, I suppose we were talking about the sort of golden era of like video rentals, and like, I think that like it's romanticized a lot, and I notice the people who are romanticizing it because they always say blockbuster, but it wasn't blockbuster, was it? It was like the mom and pop shops that'd have like the flipping the really good shit.
That's right. Yeah, we had a ton of them here. You know what I love the most about the mom and pop shops specifically is that they always had like the cool cardboard stand-ups, and they would always give you the posters after the movie ran its course. I probably have a bunch of posters somewhere that I used to get from old video stores.
Yeah, and sometimes you hadn't even seen the film. It was just like a movie poster, and movie posters are cool.
They could really sell it. I mean, the horror section specifically, you know, you would walk by it, and I would always go to the horror section, and you just go by the cover always. Who had the craziest cover? I still remember 99% of those covers because they were just so well done to grab your attention, you know, because horror, I guess, I don't know if it's harder to sell still, but, you know,
I think like horror particularly was the genre that like because you normally wouldn't have like big stars and big names in it.
Yeah.
So the cover art was like it was your whole thing. Like you couldn't necessarily have relied on like the customer having seen having rented the films that your trailer was on. It had to be about that art, man.
It's true. Plus, they can take more risks because their stories always involve ridiculousness anyway, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a serious movie, they're not going to take a chance with like an exploding skeleton on the cover or some shit like that.
You know, and when you're young and you see imagery, you're like that. You're like, yeah, I don't even care what this film is about. I just want to see this. And sometimes the thing on the cover isn't even in the movie.
Exactly. Or now, that I'm older, now you find out, all these posters exist from other countries that have nothing to do with the movie at all.
Yeah.
Have you seen? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like the ones from Ghana.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the
or
ones
like
from
even
Ghana.
old, like Greek ones and things like that, where it's just ridiculous. I'm starting to look into those. I want to start populating a nice collection of those weird ass posters.
Yeah, so some of the Japanese releases are pretty good, and all like they'll take a film like Jacob's Ladder or something, and like just like put loads of sexy women in it or something. Like it does really reflect the film, but that's probably what the market is over there.
I saw one with Michael Myers holding a sniper rifle, like
that's a nice multi.
Yeah, I mean that would really enhance his game because he walks pretty slow.
This is it, but he's a precise dude. I reckon he'd be all right as a sniper.
I think so too. Yeah, he's pretty on point. No pun.
That's what they should have done in Halloween Ends, just like blamed him for JFK.
Just all of a sudden you realize it's not now, it's a flashback. It's like the fifth Final Destination.
Yeah. Flipping I think they're doing a new Final Destination at the minute, like underrated franchise, I feel
like that fifth one is the second best one. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. I've
just
seen them all out of order though, so I don't know which one's which.
The fifth one is the one that essentially is a prequel to the first one.
Yeah.
So it ends on the plane that the first one starts in, which I thought was a pretty good little twist.
Yeah. But yeah. So what? Yeah. Oh yeah. And they edited in some footage from the original, didn't they?
Yeah, and they pulled a couple of the older actors in there to mix it in with the old footage. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really like when that's done well. I think it's because something like Star Wars are doing a lot of it now, and it's kind of just a bit fan service. But there's been other times like Phantasm's like one of my favorite franchises.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and like the original cut of the first one was like 2.5 hours long, so they cut like an hour's worth of stuff out of it. but that meant that like because they had the same cast by like Phantasm 4, they could like cut in like loads of stuff from the original Phantasm.
Yeah,
Like
that's kind of what Cobra Kai made popular now, sort of.
Yeah.
Where it's just using old footage mixed in with the new show. Kind of works. As long as
Yeah.
you can, I guess, some restoration of it. I know that was it J.J. Abrams did the restoration of Phantasm? I think he's the one who
I think
like,
so. I think it was like I think it was Bad Robot, like, yeah.
Yeah, it looked really good. I was very surprised how well, you think it's a movie 30 years old or whatever, and you think how much could they really do with it to make it look better? But turns out they could do a lot.
That's it, man. That's it. But like, I suppose because like nothing's done in the frame. Like ultimately, if you've got like a negative, you can always blow it up to whatever the new standard is.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's like remastering old albums,
Yeah, that's it. Like, but even then, it comes to a point where I think, like, do I want this grimy film that I'm so familiar with to look that much better?
That's the other problem. I mean, that one specifically, it did work out in their favor, but sometimes you don't want that old movie to look good because it a certain way, and it should look a certain way. Like it needs to be dirty, Some of them shouldn't be polished.
It's like I'd say one of the biggest examples is for me is like Cronenberg's Videodrome. Like Videodrome looks best on a CRT television.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the whole movie's framed around, being that kind of TV look. So yeah, definitely. I love that movie. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I think I dropped so many references to that movie and songs.
Like Cronenberg, like his 80s run, like I just done like the Carpenter retrospective with Marlowe. And like we're saying, like you've got to give Carpenter props for having the best run, because he was doing a film a year,
right?
And like, but Cronenberg was doing a film every 2 years, and every one of them banged.
Yep. Yeah, he mastered kind of that lane of weirdness. It is very weird, but it's not so weird that it turns you off, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I did watch, what was this recent one? Crimes of the Future?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched.
Haven't caught that yet.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, did you see the? Have you been following the ones his son made? Anti-violent
Possessor. I saw Possessor and the director's cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely headed down the same path.
Yeah, I feel like like Cronenberg's been off doing different things. So his son's like, nah. Remember how cool making these things are.
Yeah, don't forget, this is what we do best.
Yeah, and then David Cronenberg just sees that and goes, hang on. I'm doing a film that's the same name as one of my old 70s films. This is how it's done.
Yeah, check this out.
Yeah. So going back to cover art and VHS shops, like is there anything that stick out in your head as like your favorite covers?
I don't know if I necessarily have favorites. There's one recently that I always remembered. It's not even the greatest horror movie or anything, but what is it? Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Oh yeah.
But that cover, I just saw it the other day online, and I'm like, man, I always remember that cover. I don't know if I had a specific experience renting it or something, but that one always stuck out in my mind. Maybe it was just like the high school aspect of it or something like that. I wasn't in high school. I was a little kid, but it's just the school tie-in or the artwork. I don't know. That one really worked. But anything with that style of like painted look from that era, I love all of those. I love the Critters covers, Critters 2 with the big ball of critters.
Yeah.
Shit. I mean, you could really just Creep Show 2. Yeah. Love those covers.
Yeah, flipping like it's interesting because like Creep Show, it's obviously influenced by all these old EC comics, and so you can see that influence coming on. But it also like fit really well with the other films of the era's posters. So like these Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror comics, probably influencing that much more. Like,
yeah, they all had that same almost like painted comic book cover look. it was just really popular back then. But that's still probably my favorite style of movie cover. I like Drew Struzan, his style too, where it's like, I don't even know what you call it, fine drawings. The most realistic pencil and painting drawings you've ever seen.
Yeah, man. And it is amazing stuff. Like, I mean, like, I can't like stop talking about the flipping artwork. And there were some ones where like things like Demon Wind spring to mind, like where it's just huge monsters that just don't exist in the film. Like,
I love when they fool you with a really good cover and then it's the shittiest movie you've ever seen in your life. I can't think of any examples, but there's definitely plenty from that era. I'll tell you one that, I mean, it's popular now, but I saw it when it came out, was Troll 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, that one fooled me because I had seen Troll 1 also. So I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And then, I was like, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But it's so bad that you always remembered it. And of course, years later, it gained popularity and documentaries and whatnot, how bad it was.
Yeah. It's interesting, like how many of these films like that. Like, there's a lot of films I remember sucking at the time that I'm a lot more forgiving to now. Like, I don't know if it's just me being an old nostalgic or if it's just there is something to those films that I appreciate more than what I'm seeing today. Like,
I think I just appreciate the cheesiness of them. I think now, like if the story is bare minimum decent, I can appreciate how bad it is. It's that. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody put in work to make this thing. It wasn't, it's not like they just did it in a day. Everybody was working, trying to put out the best horror movie that they could with the tools that they had. So I kind of look at it from that view now that I'm older.
Yeah, when you realize there's effort gone into it, like, and like
somebody had to write it, then they had to assemble the team and all that shit from beginning to end.
Yeah, they didn't have computers. They can sort of they can make like the imagery with. So someone had to think of a way to make everything happen. And there's elements of illusion and magic tricks and all that. Like, it's incredible stuff, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. I loved that. It still happens now, but maybe on like a more spread out scale. But when something was popular back then in horror, there was just 40 other versions of it immediately after.
Yeah,
where you'd have like
a lot of them from Italy. A lot of them from Italy. Like, the Italians weren't arsed. They'll just release, like they just put out a film called The Terminator 2.
Yeah. They were the original Asylum videos that, like, from the whole Italian scene. They were just like, what are they doing over there? Let's just do that.
Yeah. There was all those phases with them, like, and like a lot of them would be quite derided because they did cheap rip-offs, but the people who were making them were sort of being interested and creative with it. Right. And so it ends up that they end up becoming more influential than the films that were big that they were ripping off in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, those were always good. I think Italians did Troll 2, I think. Pretty sure.
Yeah, it was Claudio Fragrasso, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had your sort of like tiers with the Italian directors.
Yeah, like Fulci and everybody at the top,
Yeah, your Argentos. And then you'd have, like, a bit further down, you'd have the scuzzier stuff. You'd have your Lamberto Bavas and your Bruno Matteis and all that. And Claudio Fragrasso, he's just there for the check.
Hey, I mean, somebody's watching it.
Yeah, I respect it. I think he did another film that I really like called Monster Dog.
Monster Dog? I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, that's what's it called? I found it on Tubi, which is a great source, like. But Monster Dog. It's what's it called? It's like it's like sort of a rip off of The Howling, but it's got Alice Cooper in it.
What?
Well, it's got Alice Cooper as the main guy who wants to go and make a music video in this old castle where he lived. But he knew there was loads of werewolves there, so I don't know why he picked there.
For the movie, of course. Can't have a movie without dumb decisions.
Yeah, and what's it called? Like, and obviously because it's like on Italian budget, like they don't really have like much money for like elaborate flipping Rick Baker werewolf costumes. So I think they just set really big dogs after the actual cast.
That's amazing. I love that too. Or they'll just dress up the dog's face, kind of give it a little flair.
Yeah. Flipping. But the Italians were the greatest at that, like just coming up with those kind of concepts, like so. From that era, we talk about effects a lot, and people say that practical effects always brought a bit something more to it, which I believe, and they're normally talking about horror, but I kind of think that the move to CGI has sort of impacted action movies more than anything else.
I think so. I mean, they're the ones who use it on a bigger scale, right? Or the first big full, I guess, successful green screen movie would have been like Sin City or something like that. Where it's just people in front of a green screen for 99% of the movie. But I think the best is a good mix of both. I think if you can have like a great practical effect and then touch it up with CG, that's really the route to go. I don't know from a budget standpoint how hard it is to do practical effects now. I assume it's harder than CGI, which is why everything's CGI. But I think if someone can blend the two together, that's the way to go for sure. But
just have a bit of something there for people to react to, I
saw documentaries and interviews where most of the CGI nowadays isn't even noticeable anyway. It's all landscape in the background or like that dock, the pier in Wolf of Wall Street, where he's walking down the dock and there's just all the water's fake, the boat's fake, everything that you would never know because it's just, I forgot the quote, but it's, if the CGI is done right, you don't even know that it's there.
Yeah, flipping. I had no idea. Like when I really got onto the amount of subtle things that are just being something that isn't that you don't think of as an effects film or something. I remember talking to Robert Woods, who directed An Ideal Host, which is a boss film from Australia. I'd recommend checking that out.
Cool.
And there's certain scenes in it where the character blinks more than they have to, and like nowadays, if they're recording a monologue or something and someone blinks a couple more times than they probably should, then they'll paint over the eyes.
Oh.
And whereas in the you used to just have to film it again.
Yeah.
So that less has to be spot on first time. I think that takes a bit of the live performance element away from it, knowing that every shot had to be nailed.
Yeah, I think so too. Even with recorded music or something like that, you have to do it over. I mean, you can punch in the middle of your verse, but it's noticeable a lot of times where you have to blend it together. That is strange. That's one aspect I never even thought about. just painting over somebody's eyes so they don't blink enough. But I guess when you're looking at it from the outside as a framed picture or something like that, you would notice when something doesn't work. And I mean, as the actor, they probably still did everything that they can do the best version of it, right? They wouldn't have thought, oh, maybe I blinked too much, who knows? But
so there's probably as much visual effects in flipping Sex and the City just to make them look attractive at their current age than there is in a Marvel movie.
100%. I guarantee there's in every bigger budget movie, there's tons of CGI that we don't even know about.
Yeah, flipping the earliest. I read something recently about when Ridley Scott was making the original Alien film. Flipping Sigourney Weaver just flat out refused to shave her pubes. So the bit when she comes out the thing and she's in her kecks, they had to pay someone to individually paint her pubes out of the.
That's crazy. If true, that's wild.
Renegade actions.
Yeah, I mean, from her standpoint, you got to be like, I'm not doing that. Make the movie. Yeah. Movie doesn't revolve around me, shaving or anything like that.
Yeah, flipping, what you call it, like, flipping, I don't have to be itchy for one of your scenes, like, for a month.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Aye. Like, but yeah, like, I've been thinking a lot about, but as I was saying before, with, like, the action films of the sort of era, like, back then, it was, I feel like maybe John Wick, but, like, action films aren't really hitting the same since it was just people blowing up a load of shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I'm sure I'm gonna miss some on a blind spot. John Wick definitely, and then of course the other John Wick style movies like Nobody or
Yeah.
what was this Atomic Blonde, and
Mm.
all we're missing is a kid one. Did they do a kid one yet?
No, not yet.
But
Like, what you call it? Like, I think some of the last really good flipping, like, I think like the Raid movies are really good and all. Was it that English guy directed them in Korea?
yeah, the Raid, yeah, Raid
Yeah.
is
Oh,
in
Philippines was it?
Bernthal. Nah, it's in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it Gareth Evans? I think
Yeah, I think so.
he does a series now though, Gangs of London. Which
I haven't seen that. Like,
it's very good and it's very action packed. Like, I mean, over the top, just like the Raid movies.
yeah.
But with gangs, different, ethnic gangs in London, uh, warring for the top spot.
Is right. I do love a gang war in a film.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's got them all covered. It's got everybody that would be covered in that setting, and then the action is, like I said, is just some of them. The scenes are ridiculously over the top, which is fine with me.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Like, it's kind of interesting. Like, like how before Marvel got into this thing they were doing, like they did that Daredevil series on Netflix, and they
Yeah.
were just trying to make it as hard as possible. I think the second episode had like a 9-minute fight scene that was one shot.
Yep. Yeah, in the staircase.
Yeah.
I think
that was neat.
I'm willing to bet that the new Daredevil will kind of follow along those lines again. I think him being in She-Hulk, with little comic appeal is just for that. But I feel like his story is going to be grittier because your Disney Plus is different than ours. You already have mature content on yours, right?
Yeah, we get like the stars on it as well, and
Yeah, we don't
like
have that.
They upload a lot of the Hulu content to it.
Yeah, see, we don't have that version of it. Ours is strictly what we call PG-13, right? Up until a couple weeks ago, they put Deadpool and like Logan on there, I think, which are R-rated, mature audience films, which are really violent compared to everything else. Is just strictly Disney stuff or Star Wars or Marvel. It never goes to hard R or anything like that, but those really are. So I think they're testing the waters here to see what else they can push a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's kind of limited by the fact they've got Hulu separately and they want to sell you 2 subscriptions.
Yeah, we have Hulu separately, definitely. Which, I mean, the Hellraiser and the Prey movie, I don't think they would have put those on Disney Plus here, regardless.
Yeah,
I think they have Hulu separate here, so it's just you guys have Hulu separate from your Disney Plus.
No, flipping it all goes.
I don't know how it works.
Sometimes we don't get it all. Like, we got Welcome to Wrexham on Disney.
Yeah, of course.
That's it.
Plenty of Americans care about football.
Yeah, that's my hometown and all. Like, and flipping like.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, like the city I live in now is just like 8 miles away, but it's on the other side of the English border. Wrexham is a dump, man. Like so flipping Ryan Reynolds and flipping Always Sunny guy coming in. It's just like changed the town.
That's great. I mean, I think that's essentially the whole plan. Getting them up one league or whatever, it's definitely a long-term goal, but just bringing attention to a town that needs it, that's great.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff like they're not advertising like they've done a lot of stuff for like local charities and like flipping the local food banks and stuff. They've done like quite a lot of altruistic stuff that cool. Like I thought would just be going into the documentary, but they're just like, nah, we're just going to do this. We're not just going to like take your town for a story. We're going to flip and contribute. And I've got a lot of respect for that. Like,
Yeah, that's dope. I didn't even know about anything outside of what's on the TV show at all.
But yeah, we got Prey. Like I had to use a VPN to watch Hellraiser though. What do you think of the new Hellraiser? Are you a fan of the
I liked
franchise?
it, man. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I liked. I mean, we can run through some spoilers here because it's not that new anymore. But
yeah,
I don't remember. I know there's like 6 sequels of Hellraiser, but that's
I
one of the
think we're
ones.
on 11.
It's something ridiculous. I know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them, but I know that there's so many. And I just it's the one series that I only remember the first one for some reason. I've watched them all, but you kind of just lose memory of them over time. But some of the stuff they did in the new one, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially being able to have the Cenobites kill each other and things like that. I don't know if any of the other 75 Hellraiser movies explored that, but
yeah. What's it called? Like a lot of them was just like they had to like just put out any film so Miramax could keep the rights.
right.
So like they were taking scripts that like weren't even Hellraiser films.
Yeah.
And like Pinhead just shows up at the end and goes, you fucked that up, didn't you?
Hellraiser. Yeah.
And that
there's been a couple movies like that I felt like the Cloverfield Paradox was kind of like one of those types of films.
Yeah, I think I did happen. Die Hard with a Vengeance was a popular case of that, and all like where it works really.
Wait, it was supposed to be something else?
Yeah.
I love that movie. That's the best Die Hard movie.
Yeah, it's my favorite of them. Yeah, like it's just an absolute flipping end-to-end banger, but it wasn't supposed to be, and like. I think that's a good example of when they took something that wasn't like it, because they did Die Hard, classic, and then Rennie Harlin comes on for Die Hard 2, and like sort of plain, but they're still trying to do all the same things.
Yeah, just in an airport.
Yeah, and then Die Hard 3 is like completely different, but it's just got a character that we know and we fuck with in there, like, and like that.
No, that was a good way to play it back. I didn't know that it was supposed to be something else. I love the idea of, just having a good movie written and that it doesn't become what you needed it to, but you just turn it into something else like Zathura or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure of like many examples off the top of my head, but I'm sure it goes on like a lot more than we even hear about. Like,
I'm gonna think about battle bars that you have, and you just repurpose them later.
Yeah, definitely. Flipping like I say, I have some that'll sit in my me notepad for ages, but they're coming out eventually. They're getting used.
You gotta find that right moment to just unleash that shit.
Yeah. So let's think. Let's talk about some of the other franchises since we're around Halloween, like. The big franchises, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Halloweens, the Child's Plays, the Friday the 13th. What's your relationship with some of them, and what are some of your favorites?
I mean, my relationship with horror movies is I pretty much watched every single one that I could when I was a kid. My parents, they didn't really care. They used to, I used to watch Tales from the Crypt with my father, and, I was probably 6 or 7 or something watching it when it came out. But so I was allowed to watch all of these movies. They would take me to see them. I loved Pumpkinhead when I saw Pumpkinhead in the theater as a child, which I don't think they would allow that now, even if you're with your parent. But who knows? They might. Which that spawned a bunch of sequels also. But I think that's another one of those ones where the sequels are just like, why do we have sequels?
Yeah, I think like the last 3 of them, if they weren't direct for DVD, they might have been direct for the Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm. I did love Critters, mentioned earlier. I loved Critters 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Shots to DiCaprio coming in later in the game.
I
don't think that's one he claims on his resume, though.
Yeah, so it's mad how many of these big actors, like, they have their little horror debut that they
embrace it. You're already famous, like Texas Chainsaw. I feel like McConaughey and
Renee Zellweger.
yeah, Renee Zellweger. Thank you. I was gonna say Bridget Jones' real name, but yeah. I mean, I feel like they would be okay with it. They seem like they'd be okay with it.
I don't know if they like were at the time, because I remember there was a delay. It was like like there's about 3 different titles for that one. It's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, Return to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and all this. And I think what happened was that it got made, but like while it was sort of in post production, she got the Jerry Maguire gig, and what should we call it? She got the studio to sort of buy the rights to it to just not release it.
Ah, okay. I knew a little something about it. I know that they obviously weren't on the cover originally, and then they gained a little notoriety in the film world, and all of a sudden they're thrown on the cover, you know.
Yeah.
Which I guess if you're an actor still coming up, you kind of did a lower budget horror movie, you kind of don't want that mixing in with your big ones, I guess. Makes sense.
Aye. Well, we'll soon see in about 10 years when flipping all the new actresses coming through are like doing OnlyFans now. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's got to be the new version of that, because every movie now is quality for the most part, unless, you know, they got lower budget but some popularity, like Terrifier or something right now.
Yeah, I saw Terrifier 2 yesterday, actually. Like,
I'm gonna see it tonight.
Yeah.
My brother said it's just, you know, extra violent for the sake of it, which is fine.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I'd say it's probably a bit too long, but that's all right if you're like if you're cool with that. And it's definitely better than the first one.
That's
it's
good,
actually like got some characters that are like there's a bit of something to them. They're not just there to be killed,
to die.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, like I do find like because obviously, you know, there's less nudity and violence in like Hollywood films now, because they don't have to like sell films that way. It's like the teen sex comedy genre died off completely. The sort of last wave of it was American Pie. But
yeah, even romantic comedies are pretty much gone as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, pandemic didn't help anything. Now you just have to have guaranteed wins at the theater to get all the money back for these studios, I'm sure, where it's, you know, big budget, big return.
Yeah, and it's like so hard to get a film onto screens now. Like,
yeah, exactly. Indies. I mean, luckily my theater, or you know, my cinema here, it's an AMC and it's attached to the Disney area, so it's a very big known theater. But it always has indie films, always.
Yeah.
Which because they have so many theaters, they dedicate a certain amount to just the indie section, which is always nice because I can catch something. Like they're showing Terrifier 2 there, so I'm actually going to be able to go see it.
Terrifier 2 was on at Fright Fest when I was there, but I had to like leave before. Like I think like genre cinema's in a very good state at the minute. Like, because like Fright Fest is probably like the biggest UK horror festival.
Yeah.
Like they branch out a bit wider. What's it called? I believe Bodied UK premiere was there.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was there for a couple of days of the last one, and there's like a good variation of like different of like different stuff. Like, because there was a point when everyone was making a flipping like introspective flipping COVID movie, and even if it's not about COVID,
I can't do those, man. It's like we already lived through it. I don't want to see it in video.
Yeah, there's this one out called Harbinger at the minute, which is doing the rounds at festivals. A lot of people are rating it. I really thought it sucked, but there's some absolute bangers coming out. Like there's a really good one called Candyland.
Is that the one you were telling me about?
You
told me to watch something. You said it was probably the best movie you saw at the
Next Exit. That was.
Next Exit. Okay.
That'll definitely be playing in your local cinema if they're playing Terrifier, and that's out next week. It's directed by like Mary Elfman, who's like Danny Elfman's kid.
That's what I figured. Yeah, with that last name.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I sort of like. like, I'm glad I didn't know that, because I thought, like, oh, she's just got a flipping first directing job because of who her dad is, like, and the nepotism might have put me off. But that's a film like that. How that film plays out in like a less qualified hands, it could have been a schmaltzy fucking mess.
Right.
But as it is, it's an incredible piece of work. Like, hangs a lot. It's got that Rahul Kohli guy in it.
Oh
You
yeah, I
know
like
him?
him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he
all the
was
Mike Flanagan stuff.
on Midnight Mass and
Yeah,
or a couple of things that this guy did.
yeah. He's a British guy, like, and before he did all this like Mike Flanagan stuff, like
Yeah.
he was in a I Zombie. I don't know if you remember that. That
I
TV show.
do, but I never saw it, but I do know iZombie. Yeah.
Yeah, but like he was kind of a funny guy in that. He's like naturally like a very amusing dude, like, but he's also a very good actor. So he's been doing serious acting kind of.
He is good. I mean, he was the cop in Midnight Mass, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the local sheriff or whatever I don't know, whatever that little island is, what they call it there. But yeah, and he was in the other haunting one, the second one.
Yeah, Haunting a Blind Manor. Like what's it called? This film, Next Exit, he kind of like flex both sides of his skills. Like, it's
nice.
It's just incredible. But the setup of it is like it's basically a road trip movie, and the setup is like right at the start of it, we've discovered that ghosts are definitely real and can talk to humans. So the next stage is there's got to be a bit of research. We've got to figure out, like, how do we make sure you can definitely be a ghost after you die, and then you can like check in on your relatives and shit. So there's got to be some people. So some people have got to volunteer to like die at this testing place, so they can figure all this out.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this movie. I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah,
sounds good. I watched another one recently called Significant Other that was pretty good. I'm at a point where I know that trailers are just going to show 90% of the movie, so I don't even watch them anymore. So I just kind of go in blind. So Significant Other, have you seen this one?
No, I haven't. What's that?
This doesn't spoil anything because the first scene is just a meteor lands in the woods and something attacks a deer out there. But anyway, this couple goes on a trip together camping in Oregon, up in the Northwest United States. And it's, it's just them out there in the woods, in the wilderness. And, then stuff starts happening, but it's not what you think. That's what I liked.
Yeah.
So, they kind of flip the idea on you a little bit. I won't give anything away, but you should watch it. It gets a little like wild where you're just like, oh, okay, this is definitely different from this version of movie that I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on board for that. Are you a fan of like Benson and Moorhead?
I'm not sure that I know what that is.
That they done like about 5 films together. They did Synchronicity.
Oh, I watched Synchronicity. Yeah.
Yeah, Spring.
Are they a directing team or like a writer-director team?
Yeah, like they both write and direct their films.
That's the one with Anthony Mackie, right?
Yeah.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did The Endless and Spring and all this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Spring I saw as well. Spring is grimy.
Yeah.
I like that one. It's Rose. Just Rose Lily, right?
I think so. Yeah, something like that. I haven't got off the top of my head.
Ygritte from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, Spring, and then and the Endless too. Yeah, they just did something recently though, like another one. Wait, did they do Significant Other?
No, I don't think so. But like their vibes kind of similar to how it sounds. But the one they did recently is Something in the Dirt.
Yeah, that's Something in the Dirt. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good film and all. It's like same kind of vibe. But that was their COVID movie, but they like shot it so you wouldn't know it was a COVID movie.
Right.
You wouldn't know it was made during lockdown. But they were like saying, no, if one of us is on camera, the other one's holding the camera.
Right.
And
I like that. I don't like when they just put COVID in the movie. There was some legal drama that my lady watches, and for the whole run of the season, they're in the courtroom, but they've got the plastic masks and all the separators in the booths and all this for the judge and all these things. And I'm like, just tell them it's TV. And people don't have to know that, you know, COVID's real in TV world.
Yeah. But, yeah, flipping, yeah, there's something in the dirt's there, COVID movie. It's about like one guy moves into a downstairs apartment, and there's another guy in the upstairs apartment, and there's some weird shit going on, and they're looking into it and all this.
Yeah.
But like that was on at Fright Fest, and they were introducing it, and one of the questions in the Q&A was like how did you find that particular location in LA with the two apartments? They said, oh, those are our apartments. We live in a block of two of them above each other. And they just hang around all day and like flipping, like have a little courtyard bit where they sit when they're having a ciggy or whatever.
That's
and
cool.
Like, I didn't realize that about them. Like they've been making all these films like for like 10 years now, like probably before. And the whole time they've just been like living in the same like duplex apartment thing.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's making $1 million either. Hopefully, they are getting paid pretty well because I mean they've done some quality films over time. But
I think they've. I think they did a bit. They did a bit for Marvel on some of the TV series. They did a bit.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I know that they popped up on something else recently that I was like, oh, okay, they finally came up into, you know, I guess the next step of success, if you want to call it, or whatever.
Yeah, they did it. They did a few episodes of like Loki and Moon Knight. I think they did. Mm-hmm. But I think like what they're doing is the reason they're sort of like getting involved in like the episodic TV side is because it's not like flipping like just making a couple of episodes. It's not taking a full like 2 years out of your life making a big Marvel movie. But at the same time, you're getting a bit of Marvel money to like make your own mad shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're getting paid well. You got an audience already built-in fan base for Marvel, so you're good to go.
Yeah, I wish more people would do that. I feel like we lose a lot of like great creators to Marvel because ultimately working for Marvel will give them all their dreams will come true. But like,
I mean, that is your dream to be successful, right?
Yeah,
you know, a lot of them go back and do indie stuff too. Like, I think a perfect example, or a lot of them were indie directors that got hired, but you know, like Taika Waititi, right?
Yeah.
Indie director, pulled to Marvel, but he still went back and did his own stuff on the side, and even TV with you know, What We Do in the Shadows, and he directed like some other TV series too. But now he's gonna do Star Wars also. So that's like the good balance where you can still do your indie, quirky films, you know, and do big budget, you know.
Yeah, I thought maybe Guillermo del Toro was the pioneer of that, like, because
with Hellboy, right?
Yeah, he'll go and make Hellboy and Mimic and Blade 2, and then he'll go back and just do some like Spanish language thing like Pan's Labyrinth.
His series on Netflix now is really good. Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yeah, flipping. It looks really good, like flipping.
It reminds me of Tales from the Crypt a lot. Like it's very horror tinged, but it has just that slight bit of like, not comedic feel, but like lightheartedness that kind of, you know, lets you know like this isn't, you know, you don't have to really be scared of this. But I love it. I don't think he directed any of the episodes, but it's definitely his show.
Yeah, it's got his vibe all over it. Like, I think I heard like someone say that Guillermo del Toro, when he was like growing up, like the cinema he'd get taken to, and like the films that would be on TV, they'd either be like Disney or they'd be like Universal horror. So like those two things are sort of like together in his head, and that's what sort of forms the basis.
I mean, that's actually really, that's a good explanation of his movies, because they do have that wonderment, or, you know, whatever the word is to it, that even though they're horror and, you know, dark and filled with monsters most times, they still have that little bit. I mean, maybe not Nightmare Alley, but the rest of them still had a little bit of heart to them.
Yeah, he has the occasional miss or something, but it's like it is the way that he can like you know, like even like use children as main characters, and like which creates like a much more of a sense of peril. Like, I mean, like that's one of the rule. That's one of the rules that people rarely break. You can't kill the dog and you can't kill the kid.
Right. Unless you're Alien versus Predator Requiem, like right off the bat, dead kid immediately.
Yeah.
Or I guess Halloween Ends if you want to go there.
This is it. Like as soon as they kill a kid early on in a film, you know the stakes are anyone can die in this. Like,
for sure, it's a bold move. It is a bold move.
Like Pet Cemetery, I think is a.
Oh yeah, that one. That was actually I was at the right age where that movie was creepy enough to be scary. I love part two. Part two is ridiculous, but I love part two also.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Those are the kind of that's one that's like the highlights of my being a kid, like getting me mate's mum to rent something that we couldn't get anywhere else. Like that was the sort of one of those things like that. And Fright Night.
Oh, Fright Night, I love. I like part two also, even though it just didn't need a sequel. It's another one that just didn't need a sequel. But Fright Night,
I love part two to Fright Night.
I do too, but it just doesn't feel like it needed to exist. It also feels like maybe it was just a different movie and they just made it Fright Night too.
Might have been potentially but the thing is, like, there hasn't been a decent copy of it available in ages, and it's because of the rights, like the flipping the Menendez brothers,
the killers.
The two people who killed their parents and like blamed it. Tried to get away with it in court and just fucked it up. It's clearly you and went to prison for it. Well, their father produced Fright Night 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he's got he's got the rights, and obviously he's dead. So it's a will, which goes to the Menendez brothers who are in prison, and like they can't profit off a crime.
Yeah, it's just in a dead zone. No pun intended. Also. That's crazy. I didn't know that at all. Wow. I'm going to look into that further. That's insane. Fright Night Part 1 is probably my favorite music, like soundtrack and score to any horror movie back then. I listened to that score all the time. It's so good. The use of synth to make it creepy, but I don't know, like approachable. It fucking works. I love the music in that movie. Like that when he's walking in the alleyway, following him through the little city there. Here's a wild one for you. Oh no, maybe I shouldn't say it on here. I'll hit you afterwards.
Hey, hit me. Anything?
It's it is pretty wild though. But it's about the first Friday night. But
you can drop it here, man. We're cool, man. I can edit it if it's.
Because just in case anyone watches this, you know.
Okay, we'll move on. Like, So, we're recording this on the 28th. Like, so we got Halloween in a couple of days. How do you celebrate Halloween? How does a Tony Madness Halloween go?
Well, it used to involve tons of drinking, costumes. You know.
Yeah.
I've had some pretty good costumes in the past. I haven't dressed up in some years, but now I have a 2-year-old daughter, so you know. Now it's starting it all over again, getting her dressed up. I'm gonna actually go trick-or-treating. I know that it's starting to pick up more on your side now with a little Halloween action, but it generally wasn't for the most part of our lives, right? Not a thing at all. But yeah, we're gonna go trick-or-treating around the neighborhood and just kind of keep it simple that way, and then I'll probably just eat all her candy because she shouldn't have it. But
is right. That sounds like father of a 2-year-old Halloween should be celebrated.
She's got her little costume. She's gonna be Mirabelle from Encanto, so you know we're keeping it Disney up in here. Plus, Mirabelle's Colombian. I'm Colombian. It kind of works out, you know.
Yeah. Aye, fair dues. Have you got any films lined up that you're going to be watching for Halloween? I mean, you said you were going to see Terrifier.
I mean, I've just been watching every new horror movie that I can. I've been going back and watching, you know, ones here and there that I just liked previously that I can find on streaming somewhere. A lot of them don't exist, which is hard, you know. I have DVDs, but who even knows where some of those are? Some of that stuff never made it to Blu-ray. But I just watched Significant Other the other day. I'm gonna go see Terrifier 2 today, and I just rewatched part 1 to kind of remember, where it's at. But I mean, I watched the new Candyman again. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I really liked the new Candyman. I thought it was a really good continuation of the original story. They kind of did well with it, and I don't know if you saw it, but the twist did fool me. I don't know how because it's pretty obvious, but it got me.
Yeah, I like that one. I didn't like really connect with it that well in cinemas. I was like, I never say this about a film, but I think that film could have stood to be a bit longer because, like, for a lot of it, they're doing like quite interesting stuff. Talking about like gentrification and the way the areas change, but some things will always remain the same and all that. And like they do that quite well, but they spend so much time doing it. And it's a 90-minute film that's just in the fit. They're trying to fit all the horror into the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's in the end. They kind of don't show any of the kills really leading up to it, but I don't know. There's something about it. I love the music. I love the way that he starts just gradually descending into being Candyman, I guess. And that there's different versions of Candyman, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. And I liked how everything's like they've tried to make everything like the opposite, the mirror.
Yeah, for sure. Even when it opens, I thought maybe there was something wrong with the screen when I was watching the theater. It's oh man, it's reversed. I was like, I think somebody fucked up the projector. But just the social. I mean, the original is a social movie too, but it's just based in the '90s, right? So now I love that they take the same place that it happened, but what it's like now, and kind of turn it on its head with the same social awareness, which is really good. And the Black struggle in Chicago, which they did really well, I thought.
I'm trying to get out to Chicago next year. Might have penciled something in, but
it's a good city. It's a real good city. You been to the States much?
Been to mainly for battling. Did a no coast thing over in Minneapolis.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's cool. Minneapolis is a cool city too.
Yeah, flipping. What was it? I went to Boston and all, and I did a New York thing on iBattle. I rewatched. I rewatched recently your your battle with Don Marino on iBattle.
Oh yeah, from a year ago. That was just me seeing if I still got it.
Yeah, and you do.
I appreciate it.
It's what I was saying exactly at the start of this thing is that the style of fuck you, you're a dickhead, and I am better at rapping than you.
That's how I like the battle, man. I just treat it. I've always said this. I treat it like I'm at a party, and like you're just somebody that I want to leave this party, and I'll talk down to you. So that's pretty much it. Like just drinking.
It's always going to work. It's always going to work. Flipping it's not pinned on what's going on so currently right now. Mm-hmm. Like it's not pinned on what everyone else is doing, so it's not going to go out of fashion like that.
Yeah, of course. I just had to update the style a little bit, but the content's the same.
Yeah. Hey, that's well, we're coming up to the hour mark, so probably going to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming on. Is there anything you want people to get eyes on? You got anything coming up or socials?
Yeah, my Twitter is at Mr. Madness, which is just MR Madness. Instagram at Tony Madness, TONY Madness. And just look out for me in the film world because I've been writing these screenplays for the past couple years, and one of them is gonna land. I promise you. So just remember this timestamp right here.
Yeah, man. That's it. You heard it here first. We'll have you back on when you've got a premiere to promote, I reckon, definitely.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much. I'm going to end it there. This has been the KSC. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube bullshit, even though you probably listen on Spotify, so none of the YouTube bullshit matters. You know them things. KSC Podcast. I'm Kinell. Safe.